All right, it's about that time when we get into the conversation on social media and accountability. That story on as regards Chebochok is something that has been a hot topic of conversation online. But first, let's set the scene. And those who are on X Spaces, you will get an opportunity to engage my panel. So my panel tonight is much broader than this, although let me just introduce those in studio first. We have Mark Kaigwa, who is founder and CEO Nendo, and he is in a length, let me explain what you are, lengthy, a digital marketer strategist researcher. We also have Mike Mushiri, and he is a digital content creator, but also Civic
Rise Initiative, yeah.
Civic Rise Initiative.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
so founder, Civic Rise Initiative, or?
We can put it so.
We can put it that way.
Yeah.
All right, and that is at Civic? On Twitter? At
Civic Rise, yeah, on all platforms.
Civic Rise on all platforms.
Yeah.
All right, and we have a master's student on issues who's studying diplomacy, security and intelligence at Strathmore University, and his name is Barnabas Owor, and he'll be speaking to the comparisons internationally. On the continent, we had NSAS in Nigeria. We had the Arab Spring much earlier. I think that was really the initial Facebook revolution. Yeah. And then there was the Sri Lanka situation in 2022, what they call Aragalaya. I had to Google that one and practice several times. But before then, with the focus now shifting to the parliamentary leadership, the last week has been a monumental one, with cabinet being gutted just about entirely and an Inspector General of Police handing in his resignation papers. It all started with a social media hashtag in protest against the punitive taxes contained in the Finance Bill of 2024. It has, however, morphed into a much bigger conversation on how this country is run and what is expected of its leadership in line with the Constitution. But how far will the wind of change carry and alter the way citizenry hold its government to account? It's a revolution of sorts that came with its own soundtracks, dance moves, and catchphrases. Bold, informed, and unapologetic, the TikTok generation pricked a nation's conscience, demanding fidelity to the Constitution. Failed by their institutions, they put their faith in Article 1.1 of the Constitution. All sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya. They turned their phones into instruments of democracy. Their unity of purpose, relegating decades of ethnic division to the past and resisting attempts by online mercenaries to hijack the conversation through divide and rule along economic classes. Desperate to get their voices heard on the controversial Finance Bill of 2024, TikTok became a tool for education, with videos on the bill getting upward of 500 million views, according to digital researcher and strategist Nendo. In whatever language from any part of Kenya, TikTok gave them a voice. And when their voices went unheard, their protests spilled onto the streets. Phones used to raise awareness and support for victims of police excesses. Their leaders were forced to pay attention. The citizens engaged their representatives directly and unabashedly on X Spaces that are reminiscent of the public baraza.
It is a leadership issue. It is an issue about leading an organization.
Citizens summoning their leadership directly and no longer through their representatives on issues of public concern. And it has catapulted a whole new crop of opinion shapers and political influencers, resulting in the dissolution of the cabinet and most recently the resignation of former Inspector General of Police Japhet Koome. The agenda evolving from the Finance Bill to one of reform. Has it fundamentally changed how Kenyans hold leadership to account? And that's a good note as any to start. Mark, Mike, Barnabas, in your views, has this fundamentally changed how Kenyans hold their leaders to account? I'll start with you, Mark.
I think yes, because of the connection between online and offline. I think when we zoom out to Kenya today, we don't talk much about Facebook, right? Some people call it mom book. It's over 20 years old this year, but it has over 17 million Kenyans on there. And they're sort of, I think of them as the bedrock or the foundation. They're not the first, they're not the glamorous, they're not who you see, but that's a key place as well. I'd say TikTok for me has been the absolute game changer. And then X, formerly Twitter, that has been doing this for over a decade. In fact, in some of the
Are those the keyboard warriors?
That's one of the more negative ways it's phrased. But as we're seeing, this keyboard warriorship has ways in fundraising, you know, tens of millions of shillings, in rallying, right? Whenever, I mean, just days ago when Mike here just let the word know, I think on, maybe you did it on Instagram. In minutes, it's on Twitter, it's a hashtag, and people, lawyers, I mean, all sorts of professionals are mobilizing. So I think we've never seen the gap be this short between online and offline, and never seen it happen this way countrywide.
Mike, you experienced it personally. The other day you were taken into police. I know that you were arrested, let me put it that way, right?
Arrested, yeah.
You were arrested and you posted, I think you were live. I read that you were live at the time. And then you posted and said, guys have been arrested at Kasarani. And it got immediate reaction. Tell us a little bit about that.
I think it was also a lesson for everyone when you're, you know, illegally being subjected to an illegal arrest. You know, social media is one of the ways that could actually save you. But yeah, I was very quick. I acted so fast because when I was being arrested, I was pulled over for a traffic offense. You know, I'll give the details, you know, the way they were for a traffic offense. But there were a few things that happened after that really made everyone question whether this was really a traffic offense. I was really being arrested for a traffic offense thing. But yeah, I was very quick to go on Instagram Live. I was very quick to go on X and tell people I'm being arrested. I've been taken to this place, Kasarani police station. And that's the power of social media. And by the time my tweet was up, there were lawyers already heading to Kasarani police station. After 30 minutes, LSK had already sent like a bunch of lawyers. There were like 20 lawyers. Yeah, there were like 20 lawyers who did everything they could, and you know, I was out. I was out in a few hours. Yeah.
Barnabas, what do you make of this change? Because you know, kina Mike were being dismissed as watu wanaenda wanafika maandamano na Uber. Wakimaliza na maandamano, is it Java or is it KFC? You know, nobody took you guys. Nobody took them seriously.
It's true.
So what do you make of this?
Until it got real. I think that's a new phenomenon. We are called, or people on X, TikTok, or whichever social media are called keyboard warriors. But now we are seeing it spilling from online to offline, and it just shows that I think if you're not listened to, if nothing is done from the keyboard side, if you go to the streets, I think real pressure is coming, and that's where there's so much reaction, because as Waigwa said, that it's been happening since way back, especially on X. But now that it got to the streets, I think what I'm looking into is that it has morphed and community has been created. I'm sure some of the lawyers who showed up there are not people that you are acquainted with at all.
Yeah, but even people I don't know.
People who share values online and they share it forms a community. They can now come and interact offline and cause such changes and intervene.
All right.
Together.
And it's interesting because do you think it was about people felt their representatives were not representing their interests and were feeling unheard? Do you think that was the trigger? Maybe I ask you, Mike, was that the trigger for you? We know you as, I know you, I know you as Mama Michael. Yeah, so you create digital content and you know, you help us just release the pressure of you know what life is. So what triggered you? Why did you now get into this space?
The noise began on Twitter, on X, you know, and when people started talking about the finance bill, it's also something that also took my attention. So I did my research on finance bill, I read it, and then I compiled a few a few articles, a few things that people have said online, and then I made a video about it. Because you see, I have said before in another interview that I have a platform, I have a decent amount of following on Instagram, on TikTok, on X, and on Facebook as well. And I owe it to all my followers to let them know of what is happening. Because for the longest time, we've had political ignorance in Kenya. And especially among the youth. And that's why these old people have always said, the youth don't come out to vote. Well, wakuji kuvote. It's always the old people, the millennials that come to vote. And so, seeing that there is a gap, I saw the need to create a video, not only in English, explaining and breaking down the finance bill, but I also did it in Kikuyu, which also made us, because it's a team, I wasn't doing it myself, it's a team, which also made it possible for us to mobilize other people through social media to translate the finance bill into other languages. And through Civic Rise, we were able to translate the finance bill into more than 17 languages, Kiembu, Kimeru, Kikuyu, Tholuo, including the sign language.
Wait, is this people who sat down, Aluo sat down, you know, translated it? How did it work? So
I just mobilized a few friends. Oh yeah, just, you know, help me look for people who can translate the finance bill. And I also posted it on X. And, you know, one thing about this movement, one thing about, you know, everything that's been going on, it has really tied Kenyans together. There is so much unity because people have realized, because for the longest time, the political class have always controlled the narrative. And now through social media, people speaking up and being vocal on social media, people have now realized that they have the power to speak and cause change. And we've seen over the past couple of weeks that we've been able to be vocal about certain issues, like the finance bill, for example, and it's been scrapped off. So we mobilized a few people on social media, on X, on Instagram. We posted, oh yeah, we are looking for translators of the finance bill. We had a script, you know, like a standard script for everyone to use and give someone. And guys were just coming forward. I speak fluent Meru. I can be able to translate it in Kimeru. I speak fluent Kiembu. I can be able to translate it, and that's how we were able to do it. So
you're saying that era of so-and-so has read it, therefore I don't need to read it, is long gone.
It has ended.
All right, yeah. Mark, you talked about TikTok being the game changer, but before then we do have X Spaces. We're live on X Spaces as well. Let's get some of their input, your questions for a panelist, or, you know, just a contribution. I'll rely on you, Cool Catch. My director is called Carol Cool Catch, Carol Maina, to guide me through this process. Any thoughts? You can go ahead. All right, we are opening the platform to X Spaces. So as that is handled, Mark, you talked about TikTok being the game changer. 500, that's what you tabulated, more than 500 million views of videos concerning Reject Finance Bill 2024.
That's correct. I think there's been hundreds of thousands of videos made. Some of these are just edits of existing videos, including some where they'll take actual mainstream media like Citizen and edit their own interpretation of events, which is really powerful, down to people just like Mike creating original content. And then TikTok just has a way of content spreading. I can take a soundbite from Mike, and now that's my video. I'm just lip syncing. I'm speaking over that. And so we estimate it's well over 1 billion views between the 12th of June and today. And that's just TikTok. If you think of
Wait,
TikTok,
what?
That's correct, because it's a global conversation.
How many billion views again?
That's 1 billion views. That's right. And the reason I say that is because what we found is, particularly when the finance bill was there, when Nendo was tracking this conversation, Kenyans went to some of the biggest YouTubers, TikTokers, and online publishers in the world, many of them Gen Z themselves, and said, you have to say something on Kenya. You have to say something on the finance bill. And we saw dozens of them, some who've never been to Africa at all. But they were getting so many requests, and this was across platforms. And so many of them got millions of views on their own. And that's part of just why it's been this groundswell of activity. So while the finance bill has gone, I think what we've seen now is different waves. In fact, I think of social media now as our online auditor general, digital DCI, where people are generally just spending the time and all this internet connectivity they have. I was just mentioning off the broadcast that one of the telecoms networks, for TikTok at least, right? And like I said, many other social networks are just as influential. There's one data bundle package for TikTok where 10 shillings gets you 1 gigabyte of TikTok only data. Can't use it for anything else. And you have to use that within an hour. So we don't know, but that for me is a platform where I'd estimate it's easily 5 times the size of Twitter. And it's the most rural, peri-urban, maybe inclusive for ethnicity. Every ethnicity you can imagine has its own subgenre of videos, and they are speaking and lending their voices and making them louder than ever.
All right. So we take a break, but we continue with the conversation on the other side. Watu wa Express says, why are you shy now? Na sikuwa nataka munisalimie. So see you on the other side of this break.